afternoon, everyone. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the side event on empowerment of women in Pakistan, the role of education and microfinancing in advancing justice and equality, organized by the Permanent Mission of Pakistan and Muslim American Leadership Alliance. This is Saima Salim. I'm counselor at the Permanent Mission of Pakistan, and it is my pleasure to moderate today's discussion as we explore how education and financial inclusion can unlock the extraordinary potential of women and girls. Education gives women knowledge, confidence, and a voice. Economic opportunity gives them agency and independence. When these two forces come together, they create one of the most powerful engines of justice, equality, and sustainable development. To begin our discussion, it is my honor to invite Ambassador Asim Iftikhar Ahmad, Permanent Representative of Pakistan to the United Nations, for his opening remarks. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Madam Janitor, Head of Pakistan Delegation to CSW, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a great pleasure to welcome all of you to this important conversation on the empowerment of women through education and microfinance. Allow me to begin with a simple yet powerful truth. When a girl is educated, the future of a nation is transformed. That's because education is not merely about literacy or skills. It is about dignity, agency, and the ability of individuals to shape their own destiny. When girls learn, they gain confidence to participate fully in society. When women gain economic opportunity, families prosper, communities strengthen, and economies grow. So when we look at the whole situation globally, it is no coincidence that the international community has placed education and gender equality at the heart of the 2030 development agenda. SDG 4, for example, calls for inclusive and equitable quality education for all, while SDG 5 seeks to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And SDG 10 further reminds us that reducing inequalities of all kinds, that is economic, social, and gender-based, is essential for building just and sustainable societies. Education and economic inclusion are therefore deeply interconnected, the drivers of progress. Yet, despite global advances, there are serious challenges. Millions of girls around the world continue to face barriers to education and opportunity. Poverty, discrimination, displacement, and conflict continue to deprive many young girls of the chance to learn and build secure futures. In situations of conflict and foreign occupation, these challenges are even more severe because often we see schools disrupted and communities facing instability, and education, particularly for girls, often becomes one of the first casualties. And we witness these realities in several regions today. In Palestine, for example, the devastating impact of conflict has severely disrupted the education of countless children, particularly girls, whose aspirations for learning have been overshadowed by humanitarian hardships. Similarly, in Jammu and Kashmir, prolonged restrictions and instability have significantly affected access to education. The heavy presence of Indian occupation forces, communication shutdowns, restrictions on movement, and the broader climate of uncertainty have repeatedly disrupted the functioning of schools and universities in Kashmir. For many young girls, the simple act of going to school, something that should symbolize hope and opportunity, has often been overshadowed by insecurity, fear of sexual violence, and persistent uncertainty about the future. That is why education must never become a casualty of conflict or political disputes. Because every child, everywhere, has the right to learn, to dream, and to build a future. Against this global backdrop, Pakistan remains firmly committed to advancing the empowerment of women through education and economic inclusion. Pakistan's constitution recognizes education as a fundamental right under Article 25A, guaranteeing free and compulsory education for every child. And over the past decade, Pakistan has expanded access to education across the country with particular emphasis on increasing opportunities for girls through investments in school infrastructure, scholarships, and targeted initiatives such as the Wasila-e-Taaleem under the Benazir Income Support Program. These efforts are yielding encouraging results. Today, girls constitute more than half of the student population in several academic disciplines in Pakistan's universities, thereby reflecting and transforming into the growing participation and leadership of women in fields ranging from medicine and education to sciences, engineering, and professional studies. At the same time, Pakistan recognizes that education must be linked to economic opportunity in order to translate learning into empowerment. Technical and vocational training initiatives, digital skills programs, and university-based innovation and incubation centers are helping equip young women with the capabilities needed to participate in an increasingly technology-driven global economy. And financial inclusion, ladies and gentlemen, is another critical pillar of this effort. Pakistan has developed a dynamic ecosystem of microfinance and entrepreneurship initiatives aimed at expanding economic opportunities for women. Government-led programs such as the Prime Minister's Youth Program are providing young entrepreneurs, including many women, with access to financing, training, and business support. Alongside these initiatives, community-based financial models have demonstrated the power of social solidarity in expanding economic participation. Organizations such as the Apuvad Foundation have pioneered interest-free microfinance programs rooted in trust and community support. Through such initiatives, women who previously lacked access to financial resources are now able to establish small enterprises, generate income, and contribute meaningfully to their communities. We believe that empowering women through education and economic opportunity is not simply a social development objective. It is one of the most effective instruments and investments any society can make in its future. Nations that educate their girls experience stronger economic growth, greater resilience, and more inclusive development. Allow me to conclude with a reflection. Every girl who enters a classroom carries the promise of transformation, and every woman who gains economic independence reshapes the destiny of her family and her community. Our collective responsibility is therefore clear to ensure that no girl is denied the opportunity to learn and no society is deprived of the extraordinary contributions of its women. Because when a girl is educated, horizons expand. And when a woman is empowered, generations advance. And when societies invest in the potential of women, they do not simply change the present, they shape a more just and prosperous future for all. I thank you very much for listening to my intervention, and we look forward to today's panel discussion. Back to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Asim. Your remarks reminded us that when a girl is educated and a woman gains economic opportunity, entire societies move closer to prosperity. I now invite Ms. Maha Khan, chairperson of Muslim American Leadership Alliance, whose partnership with the Permanent Mission of Pakistan has made today's event possible, for her welcome remarks. Ms. Maha, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam Saima. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, it is truly an honor to be here with all of you today for this important conversation. Allow me to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the Permanent Mission of Pakistan to the United Nations for its gracious support in organizing this event. I would like to especially thank His Excellency Ambassador Asim Iftikhar Ahmad and Councillor Saima Salim for their leadership and commitment in bringing us together for this meaningful discussion. I would also like to warmly welcome our distinguished panelists, Dr. Beverly Barrett, DIL alumni Afreen Mushtaq, and our Senator Bushra Anjem, and our Minister of Human Rights as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Across the world, and particularly in developing countries, education and financial inclusion remain two of the most powerful instruments of transformation. They provide women with the tools to realize their potential, strengthen families, and contribute meaningfully to the development and resilience of their societies. In Pakistan, empowering women through education opens pathways to leadership, independence, and opportunity. When girls are educated, they gain not only knowledge, but confidence and agency. Educated women strengthen communities, contribute to economic development, and shape a more inclusive future. Organizations such as Developments in Literacy are playing a transformative role in advancing this vision. For nearly 3 decades, DIL has worked to expand access to quality education in underserved communities across Pakistan. What distinguishes DIL is its forward-looking and innovative approach through community-based schools, modern learning models, and technology-driven solutions. The organization is preparing students not only for the present, but also for opportunities for the future. In partnership with the government of Pakistan, DIL supports 141 schools, reaching thousands of children across the country through digital learning tools, modern curricula, and teacher training. DIL equips students with skills they need to succeed, including education, confidence, critical thinking, and technological literacy. This powerful combination of vision, innovation, and impact, with strong focus on comprehensive teacher training, accountable quality control, expanding access, scaling across Pakistan, bridging the digital divide, and using AI to improve learning. Building data-driven education systems using network-wide learning management system has positioned DIL as one of the leading organizations advancing education and opportunity in Pakistan. We will hear more about this transformative impact from DIL alumna Afreen Mushtaq, whose remarkable journey reflects the life-changing power of education. 12 years of schooling through Developments in Literacy, from Orangi to a Fulbright scholarship at Harvard University. At MALA, Muslim American Leadership Alliance, we are a non-governmental agency with a consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council. We share a strong commitment to advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly those related to gender equality, education, reducing inequalities, and promoting peace, justice, and strong institutions. MALA actively participates in UN meetings, conferences, and global forums, including the Commission on the Status of Women. Over the years, we have organized more than 250 events across the United States, both virtually and in person, fostering conversations around education, civic engagement, and community empowerment as key drivers of sustainable development. As MALA's chairperson, I reaffirm our commitment to ethical leadership, stronger communities, education, and the advancement of the underserved populations, including initiatives connected to communities in Pakistan. I am also proud to represent an organization that serves as a trusted platform for Muslims in America encouraging individuals to embrace their heritage while engaging confidently in civic and public life. Through national partnerships and educational initiatives, we celebrate the contributions of Muslims across many fields, including medicine, entrepreneurship, the arts, sports, and public service. Our partners include respected institutions such as StoryCorps, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian Institution, the National Endowment for the Arts, as well as organizations including Meta, Cartier. One of our proudest milestones was being invited to ring the opening bell at NASDAQ on International Women's Day, a symbolic recognition of our continued commitment to women's empowerment and leadership. And let me conclude once again by expressing my sincere appreciation to the Permanent Mission of Pakistan, to the United Nations, Ambassador Ahmad, and his distinguished team, our panelists, and all of you here today. Your dedication and engagement bring us closer to a future where education, opportunity, and equality empower every woman to realize her full potential and contribute to a more just, inclusive, and prosperous world. And one more thing, when you educate a girl, she will educate the whole line underneath. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maha. Partnerships such as these demonstrate that empowering women is not the responsibility of governments alone. It requires collaboration across communities, institutions, and local government and civil society. We will now move to our panel discussion, where we will hear perspectives from distinguished policymakers, scholars, and advocates working to advance women's empowerment through education and economic inclusion. Our first panelist is head of our delegation for CSW, Senator Bushra Anjum Bhatt, Chairperson, Senate Standing Committee on Federal Education and Professional Training. She is a member of the Senate of Pakistan and an educationist by profession. She previously served as a member of the Provincial Assembly of Punjab and has taught at leading institutions in Pakistan, including at LUMS. In her current role, she works to strengthen education policy and expand opportunities for young people, especially women. As chairperson of the Senate Standing Committee on Federal Education and Professional Training, you are closely involved in shaping policies that expand educational opportunities. Senator Bushra, in your view, what policy and institutional measures are needed to ensure that education translates into sustained economic empowerment for women and girls in Pakistan? You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to participate in this important discussion on women's empowerment through education and microfinance. Two powerful instruments that, when combined, can transform not only individual lives, but the trajectory of entire societies. In Pakistan, women's empowerment through education is both a constitutional commitment and a national development priority. Our Constitution recognizes the right to education as a fundamental right under Article 25A, which guarantees free and compulsory education for every child. This constitutional provision reflects our belief that education is not a privilege reserved for a few, but a right that must reach every child, especially girls, who have historically faced barriers to access. As chairperson of the Senate Standing Committee on Federal Education and Professional Training, I see firsthand the policy efforts aimed at translating this constitutional promise into real opportunities for women and girls across Pakistan. Over the past decade, Pakistan has made steady progress in expanding access to education, particularly for girls. Governments at both federal and provincial levels have invested in building schools in rural and underserved areas, expanding scholarship programs for female students, and improving school infrastructure to ensure safe and inclusive learning environments. Initiatives such as Wasila Taaleem under the Benazir Income Support Program have supported girls' education through conditional cash transfers that incentivize families to keep their daughters in school. However, education must go beyond access. It must also create pathways to economic participation. A young woman who graduates but lacks market relevant skills or financial access cannot fully benefit from her education. For this reason, Pakistan is increasingly strengthening the link between education, skill development, and employment opportunities. Institutions such as National Vocational and Technical Training Commission, NAVTAC, are working to integrate technical, vocational, and digital skills into secondary and higher education. These programs equip young women with competencies that align with emerging sectors of the economy, such as information technology, digital services, creative industries, and advanced technical traders. Universities are also evolving into hubs of innovations and entrepreneurship. Across Pakistan, higher education institutions are establishing incubation centers and innovation labs that encourage students, particularly female students, to translate ideas into businesses. In line with the Prime Minister's vision of building a knowledge-driven economy, these incubation centers provide mentorship, networking opportunities, and technical guidance to help young women transform academic knowledge into entrepreneurial success. Yet, education alone cannot unlock economic empowerment unless women also have access to financial resources. For millions of women in developing countries, microfinance represents the first step towards financial independence and economic agency. Pakistan has developed a growing microfinance ecosystem that enables women to access small loans, saving mechanisms, and digital financial services. Programs such as the Kamyab Jawan initiative and various microfinance banking networks have expanded access to credit for women entrepreneurs across Pakistan. Through microfinance, women are able to establish small enterprises in sectors ranging from agriculture and handicrafts to retail and digital services. Many women-led enterprises have grown into sustainable livelihood that not only support households but also generate employment within communities. These experiences demonstrate a critical lesson. When education is paired with access to finance, empowerment becomes sustainable and transformative. At the same time, we must acknowledge that progress in girls' education sometimes faces serious challenges. Pakistan has endured the painful consequences of externally funded and sponsored terrorism from our neighborhood, particularly in parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, where terrorist organizations as the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and the Balochistan Liberation Army have targeted schools, teachers, and educational infrastructure. These groups have also attempted to exploit vulnerability by recruiting young people, including young women, into their extremist networks, seeking to undermine the very foundation of education, empowerment, and social progress. These attacks are not merely assaults on buildings, they are attacks on the hopes and aspirations of young girls, whose futures depend on education. By intimidating communities and disrupting schooling, these terrorist organizations seek to deprive girls of opportunities and to weaken the social fabric of our society. Yet, despite these grave challenges, Pakistan has remained resolute. The government has undertaken extensive efforts to rebuild damaged schools, strengthen the security of education institutions, and ensure that children, especially girls, can safely return to classrooms. At the same time, national and provincial initiatives are addressing the risks, including through community engagements, awareness programs, and expanded educational opportunities for young women. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are to ensure that education truly translates into economic empowerment for women and girls, several policy priorities must guide our efforts. First, we must continue investing in girls' education, particularly in marginalized and rural areas where access gaps remains. Second, education system must align learning with the future of work by expanding digital literacy, technical training, and entrepreneurial skills. Third, governments and financial institutions must strengthen financial inclusion for women, ensuring that microfinance, credit, and digital financial services are accessible to female entrepreneurs. Fourth, universities and educational institutions must serve as bridge between knowledge and economic opportunities through incubation centers, mentorship programs, and industry partnership. Finally, parliaments and policymakers must maintain strong oversight and sustained political commitment so that gender-sensitive policies are implemented effectively and consistently. Throughout history, societies that invested in the education and economic empowerment of women have experienced profound social and economic transformation. When a girl enters a classroom, she carries not only a book, but the promise of a brighter future. When a woman gains the financial means to shape her own destiny, she strengthens families, communities, and nations. Empowering women through education and microfinance is therefore not merely a policy objective, it is a pathway towards justice, equality, and sustainable development. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bushra. Your remarks highlight a crucial lesson. Education becomes truly transformative when it opens door to economic opportunity and leadership. Our next panelist is Dr. Beverly Barrett. Dr. Barrett is a policy specialist and educator whose work focuses on governance, institutional reform, and higher education policy. She has served in the White House Office of Cabinet Affairs, the U.S. Department of State, and Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, and has taught international business and public policy at different institutions. In your experience, Dr. Barrett, on higher education and policy, how can microfinance and financial inclusion serve as tools for advancing justice and economic autonomy?
Thank you very much, Saima. Thank you very much to all of you for being here. Thank you to MALA, Muslim Alliance for Leadership Association, and Muslim American Leadership Alliance here with Maha Khan organizing this as an NGO member of the UN Economic Social Council, ECOSOC. This is an important voice to add to the dialogue, particularly during this week for the conference on the status of women. So thank you for the honor to be here to contribute to this voice in Women's History Month of March and after International Women's Day on March 8th. Thank you also to Ambassador Ahmad for welcoming us and hosting this important conversation. Your comments on the collective responsibility and the teamwork and partnership required to reach these goals, I will highlight. As we know, number 17 for the Sustainable Development Goals is about partnerships. Thank you as well for the earlier remarks about education leading to skills development, leading to employment, and we can address together how we are making more strides around the world and in Pakistan on education, but yet to make more strides into entering the workforce and labor participation. So I want to think about these challenges together and what are reasons for these challenges. And I give us 3 challenges and variables to think about that we can return to today. The first challenge is technology and digital literacy. How can this be a tool to help us move along the spectrum from education to skills development to employment? The second challenge is governance, good governance, investing in people, investing in education, investing in equity. And the third is culture. What is acceptable as far as social norms, as far as participation in education in the workplace, and cultural change takes time in every context. But we can think about these 3 variables and how they may affect women's development in Pakistan as well as around the world. Keeping those variables in mind, we'll highlight our progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. Also, I'm going to give some examples of successful microfinance history, looking particularly at the World Bank, at USAID, until recently, and the UK's DFID Development, Department for International Development. So that will be the progress of these remarks, and look forward to hearing from you on them. I will highlight some of my experience. As was said in the introduction, I had the honor to work in the White House with George W. Bush administration. From there, I worked in Finland a year at the US Embassy. I also worked with the State Department in Jamaica as a Foreign Service officer, so can make some broad comparisons among not only Pakistan, an important country, and South Asia, but also Jamaica, a Caribbean country, and Finland, a member of the European Union, just for points of reference on things like literacy and labor participation rate. When working with the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Houston branch, financial literacy was a very important key community initiative. Even here in the United States, it's an important issue. They say up to 10% people may be unbanked or without a bank account, which is quite unusual in a developed country. And so part of having access for financial resources is beginning with a bank account, small loans, building confidence, not only for the women, but having family members involved, if there's spouses, if there's family, so that everyone has a stake in it and it becomes socially acceptable. So some of the other work that the Federal Reserve banks have done, not only in Dallas but in San Francisco, are to open bank accounts. Bank on Houston and Bank on San Francisco, working with banking partners. Again, partnerships in private sector to make it possible, or just financial education about credit and saving and what responsibilities are in that regard. So let's look at the Sustainable Development Goals that are relevant. Not only Partnership 17, quality education number 4, gender equality number 5, decent work and economic growth number 8. But we know that there has been increased enrollment in education. Pakistan is moving forward in that to provide this human right, this government obligation, as explained earlier, to Pakistani women. So we can applaud that progress and hope that that continues. On the labor force participation, it is relatively lower, and it's something we can think about together, and moving to work and growth. Just to give you some figures on that, I believe as of now, according to the World Bank, about 25% of women are in the labor force in Pakistan, but that is up from 11% in 1990. So 30 years ago, we're more than double at 25% now. But if we compare that to those countries I mentioned earlier, in Jamaica, a Caribbean country, 61% of women are in the labor force, and in Finland, 72% of women are in the labor force. So there's still some ways to go, and working on the skills development. Some other points of comparison are literacy. So if we think about not only the female participation, the literacy in Pakistan, I believe, average 62%, but for women it's about 50%. So about half of women are literate, compared to Jamaica, 88%, and Finland leads the world at 100%. So definitely progress being made, but more room for improvement as we think about the Sustainable Development Goals. So let me speak a little bit about institutions and some institutional history, and what can these institutions do to support. I mentioned those 3 variables of technology, with digital literacy, governance, reform, and culture. So if we think about the World Bank, USAID in the US, and DFID in the UK, let's talk a little bit about their history. The World Bank started in 1947 after World War II. It was part of the Bretton Woods Agreement to invest in developing countries, and it has expanded over time. Pakistan has been an important member over time. It's in Washington, D.C., and remains very active. It was later in 1961 in the Kennedy administration that USAID was founded to support developing countries around the world, and has had robust progress, which I personally hope will be revived in the future. But we can look at some comparisons to what the World Bank, USAID, and DFID do. DFID in the UK, Department for International Development, came later. It came in May 1997 by Prime Minister Tony Blair's Labour government to promote sustainable development and eliminate world poverty. It replaced what was known as the Overseas Development Administration and operated as a separate government department until it merged with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, in September 2020. So now DFID is still active and part of the FCDO. So let's look at some of their accomplishments and try to build on those going forward to create opportunities for women. And let's look at their focus. So World Bank is about large-scale institutional reform and large-scale finance through loans. USAID focused on private sector and enterprise development, small and medium enterprises, and DFID focused really on market systems development. Particularly, you might be familiar with the Pakistan Microfinance Investment Company, PMIC, and Karandas Pakistan. Those were created by the Development International Development, DFID in UK. So they have a very important legacy that I think we need to build on as we think about the future. Other things to highlight, the DFID market system approaches, they address issues like credit risk, information asymmetry, and fintech innovation. The World Bank focused on structural reforms and large-scale financial infrastructure. And USAID, again, focused more on individual enterprise development and private sector growth. So together they created a good layered assortment of microfinance tools available historically to build on. And we can talk more about these over time. I want to spend some time on each one. So let me talk first about the World Bank. The World Bank, with their core objectives, infrastructure projects, credit to microfinance institutions, and financial regulation, also created the Pakistan Financial Inclusion and Infrastructure Program, FIIP. The Financial Inclusion and Infrastructure Program was approved in 2017 to give a digital payments infrastructure. And this will be important as digital literacy continues to expand. The World Bank also developed a resilient and accessible microfinance project. The Resilient and Accessible Microfinance RAM project is just as recent as 2025, $102 million for microcredit. This World Bank approach reflects institutional development and financial system deepening. They will continue to be an important partner. The Department for International Development UK, with their market system approach, developed the Karandas Pakistan nonprofit in 2014. I believe it's still operating, and it creates commercially viable investment models in the small and medium enterprise sector. It supports fintech innovation, the small and medium enterprise SME lending, digital payment system, and financial market research. The UK has leveraged more than 100 million for the microfinance sector, expanding access to microcredit for millions of people. Now there are about 9 million people participating in microfinance in the country, 230 million, and I think about 4.3 million women, according to the World Bank. So women are about 45% of the 9 million participants in microfinance right now, but hopefully that will continue to expand. And I mentioned the USAID approach was for grants to enterprises when it was operating, and innovation funds. So each of these three important partners have their own tools. USAID focusing on grants, the UK focusing also on grants, but risk guarantees, innovation funds, financial regulation reform, and SME funds across the board for small and medium enterprises. The World Bank is distinct in that it made sovereign loans to governments and provided risk guarantees. So over time, Pakistan has been making progress, particularly thanks to these three partners. There is potential for even more progress going forward, but definitely want to keep in mind the institutional goals, the tools available to us now. So now I think it's a real opportunity because we're in the age of AI and digital literacy is all the more available. If we can build infrastructure for Wi-Fi, for digital payments, and we can get more people into the workforce and employment system. So thank you for listening to this layered approach about how opportunities for this financial infrastructure have been put forward by the World Bank, by DFID, FinTech, and SME Finance, and then USAID helped develop entrepreneur ecosystems. In the absence of USAID, hopefully private sector and other NGOs can come in and help support entrepreneurship. This together makes big strides for financial inclusion and economic development, on which there's still so much promise. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on Pakistan in the future. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dr. Barrett. Your insights regarding work of some of the institutions remind us that financial inclusion is not only about access to credit, it is about expanding dignity, opportunity, and economic independence for women and girls. Our last panelist is Ms. Afreen Mushtaq. Afreen is a Fulbright scholar, education advocate, and TEDx speaker committed to advancing educational equality. Raised in Orangi she completed her education through Development Literacy Initiative DIL and later earned a degree from Institute of Business Administration, Karachi, followed by a master's in education policy from Howard University. She works with organizations supporting girls' education and youth empowerment. Drawing from your own experience and advocacy, Afreen, how does access to quality education strengthen women's and girls' ability to claim their rights and participate fully in society? You have the floor.
Of course, thank you so much, Ms. Saima. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you so much to the Permanent Mission of Pakistan and Muslim American Leadership Alliance for convening this important discussion. It is truly an honor to be here. When we talk about justice for women and girls, we often begin with laws, policies, and institutions. When justice does not begin in courtrooms, long before a woman can claim justice, she should first believe that she deserves it, and that belief often starts in a classroom. I know this because I'm a product of that transformation. I was born and raised in Orangi town, Karachi, one of the largest informal settlements in Asia. My grandmother arrived in Pakistan as a teenage refugee during the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. She has never been to a school, and despite working long hours sewing jute sacks just to feed her children, she saved every penny to send her kids to school because she had a powerful belief that education is the only reliable path out of poverty and towards prosperity. And 2 generations later, that belief took me from a small nonprofit school named Dale in Orangi town to Harvard University as a Fulbright scholar. But my story is not unique because I am the only exceptional girl from Pakistan. It became unique because millions of girls in Pakistan still do not have access to education. According to UNESCO, around 25.1 million children in Pakistan are out of school. Half of them are girls. Many of them who are enrolled, they never make it to even secondary education. So when girls are denied education, they're also denied voice, participation, and eventually justice. Because education is not only about knowledge, it also shapes your perception and what you believe is possible. It's going to sound a little silly, but when you learn about a larva becoming a butterfly, it also quietly plants the idea that each one of us are capable of becoming something more than where we began. I remember the first time I was giving a school presentation, I was trembling, my voice was shaking, but my teachers encouraged me to keep speaking, just a little louder each time. And slowly, that little girl who was scared to give a presentation in her classroom started speaking at international stages, gave a TEDx talk, advocated for girls' education on global platforms, and became one of the 25 most influential women in Pakistan under the age of 25. Most of that transformation happened at the Dil School because of my teachers and mentors. Every project, every competition, every opportunity they gave me, my dreams kept growing far beyond just my own ambition and towards serving the community that raised me. Let me tell you a little bit about the Dil School. Dil School is not only remarkable because of its impact on me, but what it represents. Dil is providing quality education to kids in underserved communities through their strong academics, focus on AI-enabled learning management systems, science labs, extracurricular activities. For students in communities like mine, schools like Dil are the first doorway to real opportunity. Today, Dil runs around 221 schools in Pakistan. Around 170 of those are government-owned that the Dil has adopted and helped strengthen. We're serving around 95,000 children in Pakistan right now. Across the whole Dil network, around 78% of students enrolled are girls, which shows a deliberate commitment to expand opportunities to those who are often the first ones to drop out of school. And through investing in teacher training, tech-enabled learning, access to digital literacy, is how Dil is making sure that girls remain in school and build a future that once felt out of reach. But those like me who have benefited from this opportunity and graduated from a nonprofit school, there's also a deep sense of responsibility because there's a commitment to give back to the community and pay that opportunity forward. After graduating from a Dil school, I got a National Talent Hunt Scholarship and I attended the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi, which is one of the most renowned business schools in the country. During my time at IBA, I organized multiple seminars and outreach programs to help students in underserved communities. One experience I'll never forget was a seminar I organized in Mitti Tharparkar, which is one of the largest deserts in Pakistan. Around 250 students attended, and out of those, 2 girls got full scholarship to attend IBA Karachi, which was the first in the school's history. And in that moment, my belief was strengthened that education is not only about changing one person's life. It creates a ripple effect. When one girl is educated, she becomes a role model in her own community. I still see this ripple effect when my juniors from Dil School reach out to me and they say, Abi, I wanted to be just like you and now I've gotten into IBA. Or Abi, I wanted to be brave like you, so I convinced my parents to send me out of the city to attend this engineering school. Today, these girls from Dil schools, Dil graduates, are attending business, law, medicine, engineering schools. And every time I hear their stories, I'm reminded that empowerment spreads and it multiplies. In many ways, the same ripple effect is the most transformative outcome of education, and exactly why education is so deeply connected to justice. Because when one woman is educated, she'll surely hold hands and take other women forward. But research shows that education strengthens a woman's ability to claim her rights. When women have secondary education, they're more likely to participate in workforce, access healthcare, delay early marriages, participate in civic and political economy. But there's another dimension to this whole discussion, which is economic independence. Without economic agency, women feel constrained in their ability to claim their rights. But when they have, that's why education and financial inclusion must go hand in hand. Because when women have both education opportunities and access to economic agency, that's when they can make their own decisions about their own lives. That is a big problem in Pakistan. They will have the power, the ability to invest in their own families, and most importantly, that they will be investing in the future generation. Because when a woman is educated, she'll make sure that her children go to school. But let's also keep in mind that barriers exist. Women and girls in Pakistan have several problems, from poverty to limited infrastructure, societal norms where we prioritize boys' education more. And solving those problems definitely require policy commitments and more investment in quality education. And that's where organizations like DIL come in, where we all collaborate and try to invest in quality education for the future of our dear nation. Thinking all of this, every time, I always return to my grandmother, because she never read a research paper that said education is the solution to economic prosperity. She never studied development studies, but she had a powerful belief in education and how that can change a family's destiny. And here I am sitting as a proof that she was right. So the problem in front of all of us is not to prove anymore that education works, to establish that. The problem now is to make sure that every girl, no matter where she is born, gets access to education and can truly experience its power. Thank you.
Thank you, Asim. Your powerful story demonstrates that education does not simply change individual lives, it transforms possibilities for entire communities. Thank you to all our three panelists for their insightful remarks and perspectives. Now we will open the floor for questions and comments. We know that we have very limited time, so I would request that whosoever takes the floor to ask a question or a brief comment, please be brief, introduce yourself, and if you belong to a certain organization, mention its name and ask a question from the panelists.
We've learned today the importance of technology in making things happen, even when that doesn't work. I know that people are more powerful than technology. I'm incredibly inspired by your comments today, Afreen. Thank you so much for sharing that. My name's Johnny Rizvi, and I'm in Houston with Developments in Literacy. And as someone who was born in the United States with parents from Pakistan, one generation removed. I think I've visited Pakistan 2 times in my life, and future generations will even be further removed from Pakistan. But one thing I know is that I'm very fortunate to have the opportunities I've had, and there's a deep commitment still there, not just in me, but a lot of my fellow Pakistanis born in the US and in other parts of the world to support organizations like DIL, because hearing you speak makes us feel like it's the most important thing to do. Can you tell us a little bit about the future of organizations like DIL? What types of goals can they set now? How can they use technology now and moving forward to not just be able to accomplish what they've done with you, but to be able to do more? Where do you?
Next question. We'll take all questions together and then.
University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I'm also a UN Fellow with the American Pakistan Foundation. I have really enjoyed this conversation, especially hearing a lot about education and understanding these nuances. Actually, I've gotten the chance to explore and conduct research in Jamaica, Eswatini, Morocco, as well as that of South Africa, and of course Pakistan, specifically looking at youth development and involvement in using education as a health promotion avenue. I'm curious specifically, after seeing all these different communities, a variety of landscapes, a variety of religions and nuances that we can explore, what has been done or what can be done either on the multilateral stage through governments or private-public collaboration or within the government of Pakistan to address this one key issue that we've seen consistently, and that is mis and disinformation, and not being able to address it effectively and sustainably, allowing for students, young students as well as older individuals, to understand how they can access these avenues and access information to make effective and educated decisions.
My name is Madiba, and I'm from the United Nations Association in Canada. As I'm listening to all the information that's been shared by our panels, a couple of thoughts that are connecting in my mind are access to education also means access to electricity. When we don't have certain infrastructures in place, how are we to get Wi-Fi and talk about digital payments and build infrastructures when that's so inaccessible in many parts of the country, it's not consistently. So my question is around what governmental infrastructures are sort of being developed in tandem to support what we need to build education and access to women leadership development in Pakistan, and if there could be some discussion around the multilateral comment that was actually made. So yesterday I sat in the session for the Gambia and Turkey. They were talking about what the Organization of Islamic Cooperation is doing to advance women leadership. We talked about digital strategies to address AI and other tactics as well. So where does a bigger concerted effort come into play? When it
Sarwat Kumar from Pakistan. I am chairperson of Pakistan Women Association, and I belong to Sialkot. It's a small city. There is not more opportunities for education as in big cities. So it's my first time here. I am trying to educate the girls in our school. I started the education from street child, and now they are educated. More of girls are now educated, but I want to do more something for them.
Thank you for your all efforts. One last question. Anyone interested to ask?
We haven't had a, go ahead.
Hello, I'm from the National Security Fellowship at Seton Hall here in South Orange, New Jersey. And looking at China and Pakistan's strategic relationship, how can the United States best help Pakistan counterterrorism, specifically with China-Pakistan economic corridor and the rise of the BLA?
We will. Any more questions? This question is not relevant to the topic that we're discussing, so move ahead. We can take one more question.
We can take one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My name is Tahreem. I am a student at Columbia University. I am a computational researcher, etc., and I'm here on behalf of the American Pakistan Foundation. My question relates to the rise of the concept of the doctor bride in Pakistan. We have a lot of people pushing towards education, but typically in the realm of marriage and/or societal norms. I'm asking the panel on their advisory and comments on how we can combat social norms within Pakistan to empower women within their own homes to pursue education as a means of economic independence and just their own passions and interests.
Okay, thank you for your question. So now we have 4 questions on the topic at hand. I think the first question was directed at Afreen. Perhaps she can respond, and then the other panelists and speakers can.
First of all, thank you so much for the question, Johnny. And I think that is the perfect example to talk about what the standard of quality of education should look like in Pakistan. Every time I think about education, there are 3 important factors that we should definitely be investing in. Very first is teachers. I cannot emphasize enough on how important it is to train your teachers, even with all the digital literacy and better level of curriculum. Unless you invest in your teachers, it's not going to work. None of it is going to work. Why I say this, because I did a research project with the Ministry of Education of Coahuila, Mexico, and they were also trying to use technology to promote education. But just introducing a new curriculum and the means to deliver it is not going to work unless your teachers are trained for it. We saw the same thing with Plan Ceibal in Uruguay. We saw the same thing in Mexico. So that is the first thing that DIL is focusing on. That is teachers' professional development. All of the teachers are getting the right tools necessary to support the students the way they need. That is the perfect example to see what the future of education can look like in Pakistan.
Thank you. Anyone from the panelists and speakers wishes to answer the rest of the questions? Senator Bashir.
My mic on
I'd like to add more to what Afreen had said. You see, there is no right ingredient. So I've been in politics for good 12 years, and I primarily focus on education. So I've served in Punjab Assembly for a good 10 years, and what I've realized is that the only way forward is public-private partnership. Because there are it's not that easy. It's not about government providing a school and putting kids in. It's a lot of cultural norms and values and traditions that we have to deal with, which I totally agree with what you had to say. because that's a huge dilemma. I'm going to come back to you as well. I want it to be very interactive, so I'm just going to go back and forth because these are the issues that the government faces when we want to implement these policies. So what happens is that in Pakistan, the dilemma, the issue that we're facing is that girls, even though research says that not a lot of girls go to school or they're, because we live in a patriarchal society, it's a patriarchal mindset, resources are limited, so if you had to invest, they'd rather invest in a boy child as compared to a girl child. So what happens is the girls are very ambitious, mashallah, they get good grades, and in medical what happens is they take away all the seats. So the government invests in their degrees, but the cultural norms is that a mother-in-law wants a daughter-in-law who's a doctor, but she will never support her career. So that's a degree, that's money wasted. So this is what the government has to face. So I was all for changing the policy. I said make it a quota or a percentage, because this is all the resource that is being wasted. So how we deal with the mindset? Yes, we need the civil society on board. Yes, we need private organizations. Why? Because we need to change a mindset. It's not about providing facility only. This is what we at government level have to deal with. Now coming back to public-private partnerships and bringing in digitalization and everything. Now you have to understand one thing. Pakistan is a society which is still trying to evolve. So in Pakistan, the rote learning is a culture. Now we want our learners to be analytical thinkers, critical thinkers. So we need the teachers to train in a certain way. We need the curriculums to design in a certain way. So it's not just providing books, and it's not just providing infrastructure. There are a lot of issues. Pakistan is criticized for bonded labor. So what we do is the mindset of a Pakistani society is that they work at these brick kilns and everything. So the government not only has to provide for schools, books, but has to give stipends to convince them to send their children to school. You see, that's another issue that we have to face. We have to give school meals to lure the children to come to school. Then secondly, yes, we do agree there's a lot of dropout rate as far as females are concerned. Why? Because of the sanitation facilities that are not provided. So what happens is if there are not toilets there, the female students after a certain age, after they hit puberty, will stop going. So there's a definite fallout range there as well. But secondly, the graph shows, because maybe the opportunities are limited, but government is very serious about this. So there's Punjab Education Endowment Fund. We always create opportunities where we support and give scholarships to girls. But it's a mindset that we're fighting against as well. So you have to understand that. It's not easy. You can't force people to send their children to school. You can't, then even if you do send them to schools, there is a continuous change. Now there's digitalization, so the government has limited resources. So I always say, and I always talk to these NGOs and private organizations as well, that let's collaborate. Because when you collaborate, the resources multiply. I work with a lot of organizations, and they work in silos. In government, everybody's working in silos as well. When you combine the resources, I think the impact is way bigger. So yes, that is another way forward. I'm just giving you way forwards because the problems we all know. So that's another issue. Now the trend is, now we were just having this discussion in the Senate about increasing the CSS age limit for Balochistan. You see, because Balochistan they don't have enough resources. It's an area that is affected by terrorism as well. So we just found out that research says that in civil services, the number of women have increased immensely. If you look at Pakistan, it's changed. We have young girls serving in police, young lawyers, everywhere there's girls, everywhere. In fact, I feel bad for the boys as well, because somehow Pakistani girls end up getting good grades. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. So yes, things are not that bad, but what we need to do is we need to collaborate. And yes, technology needs to be adapted. our teachers need to be trained, our curriculum needs to be right, and all of this can only happen if public and private partnerships happen. So yes.
Thank you.
Want me to add to the questions? Thank you. Okay, I wanted to address the question on misinformation, questions on infrastructure, and questions on social norms. Thanks. So on misinformation, all societies are struggling with that now. It's really important to be an educated consumer of information and know the sources. Is it a verifiable source? Whether it's news, whether it's government, maybe a demand from your public agencies that they are accurate as well. But it's a struggle everywhere, right? And so you're not alone in that. But I think it's a battle that with freedom of speech comes responsibility. So you can probably find some international partners to help with misinformation and verifying sources. As far as we were talking about private-public partnerships, whether it's for infrastructure, building electricity, Wi-Fi, some partnerships can come from central banks for financial literacy and inclusion programs, getting the bank accounts open, and working in neighborhoods that are traditionally not served. In the US, we have what's called the Community Reinvestment Act from 1975. It is a government law that banks had to go into low-income neighborhoods and provide loans to them so that they wouldn't be technically redlined or left out of financial opportunities. And perhaps there's similar laws or efforts to really get to those underserved communities with banking services that require infrastructure. And the question about social norms, how do you make it acceptable, to go to school, to work, and that's a really big question, starting with conversations at home, starting with conversations in faith communities. There can be faith-based partnerships, faith-based NGOs, and just associations and community work. But making it a question that you ask to your public sector leaders and your private sector leaders, because change like that takes time. And even in the US, we have issues like that. Will women serve on boards? Will women, I think now maybe it's 25% women in the US Senate, but that's not as high as in some other countries, in developed countries. So it's always kind of a slow process, but one that you can raise the questions on and look for partners in various community areas to make that change and see what's acceptable. So it's a really important conversation to have. As we conclude this conference on Status of Women Week at the UN, really encouraged by all the interest here today, and hope these dialogues continue. I'm happy to continue the dialogue with any of you individually today or in the future, because we should really carry this with us and try to make a difference, as everyone has shared. So it's great dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I think there were one or two questions. If you allow me, I could come in. So first, Dr. Barrett addressed a little bit of that misinformation and disinformation. I think, as you rightly pointed out, this is something that is impacting all countries and societies, and particularly Pakistan has been impacted by this. And there was a reference to what could be done at multilateral levels. So I would just wish to share with all the participants that Pakistan has really been in the lead in terms of utilizing multilateral fora to counter misinformation and disinformation. We were the initiators of a major initiative in the General Assembly some years ago that led to the adoption of a resolution to counter misinformation and disinformation for the promotion and protection of human rights. And we then had a similar initiative at the Human Rights Council, and we followed it up actually in UNESCO with another initiative also that revolved around countering disinformation and misinformation to better allow people to exercise their liberties of speech and access to information. So this is something that we have been doing at the multilateral level. And then there was a question, and a very pertinent question about access to electricity, because it is actually that would enable people, especially youth, to benefit from all the tools of digital literacy and all of that. So it's a fact that Pakistan had been facing electricity and power deficit for a number of years, which we have been able to address to a great extent through our cooperation with China, also as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So a lot more installed capacity that's in place now. But still the challenge is there because I would say that along with accessibility, there's also a question of affordability. This challenge continues to be there, but there are new ways in which this is being addressed. You would be aware of the solar revolution in Pakistan. Yeah, so and 5G is coming. Especially with the solar, because you can reach far-flung areas and where the national grid is not there, and also with the solar being more affordable. So that's a way to do that. And lastly, although not related to our conversation, but a question was raised as to how US and Pakistan can collaborate on counterterrorism. Well, actually, in ways it is related, because you all remember the Malala story, and how it was linked to, and then in fact eventually used to promote girls' education in Pakistan. It was a terrorist incident. So Pakistan and US are long-standing partners in counterterrorism, and there's a lot that we do together in terms of intelligence exchange, information sharing. I think there's more that US can do in terms of helping with resources and modern technology and equipment for counterterrorism. But this is an ongoing cooperation that I understand is being further strengthened. You mentioned BLA. We are working with the American colleagues to have this organization listed among the UN terrorist entities. So that's another way of in which we can cooperate.
So can I add to that?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
This mic is very okay. So just adding more to the fact that now you have to understand how the government feels, and whichever government, it's not just a particular party. Now Pakistan enjoys a huge youth pulse. 60+% of our nation comprises of youth. So there are no two ways about it. We have to invest in them, because if we do not invest in them through education, they will become a huge liability on us. So the government is trying all ways. We have these NAVTAC vocational trainings as well, because sometimes you do not get to convince them for academic qualifications. So you train them otherwise. You train them through skills. We've recently passed a Child Marriage Act. The legal age to get married is 18 for girls. Why we did that? That we did because we wanted them to get educated. And obviously, parallel to that, any legislation that happens does not have just one motive in sight. It's because Pakistan has a huge population as well. And the fact that we expect a girl to get married, because again, we live in a patriarchal society, so we expect the girl to have a child in the first year of marriage, and that too a male child. So we focused on that, and we were very successful. Sindh was the first province to get the Child Marriage Act passed. Now at federal and at provincial, and all basically at Pakistan level, now the marriageable age is 18, which is good news for us, so that the girls get chance and opportunity to educate themselves and finance. Now there's another trend, because we've recently faced a global pandemic, right? So economically as well, it's not viable for one person to earn money. So it's become a need, it's become a necessity for the woman to work as well. Now what the government is doing is the government is facilitating the whole process. What happens is, what the prerogative of the Prime Minister is, that the minute a woman steps out of the house, we need to facilitate the whole process, from providing public transportation, to making sure she reaches her workplace safely, to coming up with laws
that counter workplace harassment, and then making sure that she gets back home safely. So for us, it's a whole process, right? And we're working on that. We need parallel legislation, we need a very strong media campaign, because we are not just in the process of facilitating the whole process, but we're in the process of changing mindsets as well. So yes, now that we have a first female chief minister in Punjab, Punjab was always considered to be a very conservative province. We're very proud of the fact that we have women in key positions, we have women in decision-making roles. For myself, will speak that I'm the youngest senator, and I'm chairing the Committee for Education Professional Training. So things are changing in Pakistan, and we're being the voice of women. We're making sure to facilitate. As a chairperson for education, my key role is to watch, basically to look out for anything that is not right in education, or facilitate the whole process of a watchdog, basically. The ministry is answerable to me. So yes, things are changing. Women in Pakistan are not only progressive, they're very intellectually sound. They just need opportunities, they need guidance, and they need security. And Punjab is becoming a model province for women, because when women are in key roles and key positions, they make things easier, facilitate for women. So yes, things are changing for Pakistan. They look favorable.
Thank you, Senator Bushra. Now I would request Mr. Abdul Khalik Sheikh, Secretary, Ministry of Human Rights, for brief concluding remarks. Have the floor.
Thank you very much. Before I move on to concluding remarks, I'm tempted to answer the question which was apparently considered irrelevant. From a civilian law enforcement background, and I have served as Chief of Balochistan Police for more than 2 years, and that was in happening time from 22 to 24. Actually, counterterrorism does not involve fighting terrorism or dealing with terrorism through coercive and kinetic means alone. There is a lot that can be done in non-kinetic domain, and through soft measures and through non-coercive measures. And how US can help us, and they've been helping us, I'll share in a while. For instance, Ambassador Donald Bloom visited and inaugurated Women and Children Facilitation Center in Quetta along with me a couple of years back, which was established with the US money. And we were able to, through INL, we were able to build women hostels and a women classroom for women police officers. And in 2 years, we were able to increase women participation in police by 400%. So the point precisely I'm trying to make here is that you can do it by non-coercive methods. And how US can help us? US can help us by investing in programs where we can have inclusiveness, rule of law, environment of tolerance, and resolving conflicts instead of creating new ones. Now I move on to my concluding remarks. Let me thank distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to express my sincere appreciation to the permanent mission of Pakistan and the Muslim American Leadership Alliance for organizing this important discussion. I also thank our distinguished panelists for their insightful contributions and the audience for their thoughtful engagement and their pertinent questions. And today's discussion has highlighted several important takeaways. First, education remains the most powerful foundation for women's empowerment. As emphasized during the discussion, access to quality and inclusive education enables women and girls to develop confidence, knowledge, and the ability to claim their rights and participate meaningfully in society. Second, education must be closely linked with economic opportunity. Skill development vocational training, and digital literacy are essential to ensure that education translates into sustainable livelihoods and meaningful participation in modern economy. Third, microfinance and financial inclusion play a transformative role in expanding women's economic agency. By providing access to credit, entrepreneurship opportunities, and financial services, microfinance enables women to establish businesses, generate income, and contribute to the prosperity of their families and communities. Fourth, Pakistan's experience demonstrates the importance of integrated policies that combine education, skill development, and financial inclusion. Finally, empowering women requires partnerships. Governments, civil society organizations, academic institutions, financial institutions, and international partners must work together to expand opportunities and scale successful initiatives that benefit women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, today's discussion reminds us when women have access to education and economic opportunity, families are strengthened, communities prosper, and societies move forward. Therefore, Ministry of Human Rights in Pakistan continues to make efforts to promote and protect rights of women and girls in Pakistan, including their economic rights and right to education. Let's resolve to work collectively to ensure that every woman and girl has the opportunity to learn, to lead, and to contribute to building a more inclusive and equitable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our distinguished speakers and participants. Today's discussion has reaffirmed a simple reflection. When women are educated and economically empowered, justice advances, societies prosper, and future becomes more inclusive, leaving no one behind. Thank you to you all for joining us this evening. With this, we come to the end of the event.
Thank you.